Coming at you from the AO Studios, it's the Fade Route with D and Z. Here are your hosts, D and Z.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Coming at you live from the AO Studio.
Ayo.
It's the Fade Route with D and Z. I am D, and we've got a great show for you tonight. AD gets hurt, shocker. Rodgers and the Jets are parting ways, and Pete Alonso signs with the Mets, making Z's year complete. We'll begin today's show with an emphatic end to the NFL season, which saw the Eagles blow out the Chiefs 40-22. And believe it or not, it really wasn't even that close. One time it was 40-6. At one point, it's 34-0. Going into the game, there were talks of a three-peat. Patrick Mahomes being the best player in the NFL and possibly making a run as the GOAT. Is it time to pull the brakes on that and just put all that to bed?
Well, it's time to pump the brakes on it because he's not even 30 yet. He's still got a good 8 years left in this league, at least. So we can just calm the fuck down. Let's do that. Can we all just calm the fuck down just a little bit? Can we stop with the Tom Brady comparisons? Can we stop with the Belichick and Andy Reid comparisons? Can we just chill out? Everything is like, is this the greatest ever? Holy recency bias, Batman. You're kidding me. So, what we saw was a complete and utter domination by the Philadelphia Eagles. But we need to give them their due, right? We had concerns. You had concerns specifically about Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio came to play. Like, he had them humming. He didn't blitz. Generating all that pressure, 6 sacks, no blitzes. That's impressive. That's absolutely impressive. He forced a fumble. Come on now. 2 picks. Like, Patrick Mahomes was on skates, right? He had no pocket presence until late in the game when they called off the dogs. And that's when he hit the bomb for the touchdown. But they were in his kitchen all night. It exposed the fact that Joe Thuney is not a left tackle. Right? He's playing out of position. Good on him for playing out of position and being a team guy. Good for him for that. But it really exposed the fact that it wasn't right. Like, the mix wasn't right. They didn't keep Kelsey in to deal with the pressure. They didn't generate anything. Like, Mahomes was their leading rusher with 25 yards. Nada, Zippo, Zilch, Kaputski. The Eagles totally snuffed them out. And on the other side of the ball, the new Saints head coach, Kellen Moore, we'll talk about that, but he had them humming. Right? Oh, you neutralized Saquon Barkley. That looked like the only thing Steve Spagnuolo set out to do. Mm-hmm. Which was pretty much like what we expected. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles stepped up and they had an alternate game plan. Like, okay, you're going to stop Barkley. Jalen Hurts is going to run for 72 yards. They hit Devontae Smith. They hit A.J. Brown. I love that stat that you told me the other day. Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith, the first players from Alabama to score a touchdown. What? In the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow.
Think about the amount of people who've gone to the University of Alabama that played in the Super Bowl. Alabama. Roll Tide. Roll Tide. And this is the first ever. That's crazy. But it's hard to say that Mahomes is just another guy. He certainly played like just another guy in the Super Bowl. But I think it's time that we pump the brakes on anointing him as the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think it's something that we kind of got caught up in and got carried away with. And it's something that it's still an incomplete because he still has 8 to 10 years left in this league. 4 or 5 of them probably at a ridiculously high level.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, it really came down to coaching. I mean, I thought they had the better coaches. I thought the Chiefs had the better coaches. I thought they had a better season. They were winning close games. They were winning one-score games. And when the light shined brightest, I felt like Patrick Mahomes this year delivered. I really did. But when it came down to this game, and when it's come down to Super Bowls in general, I mean, he's only really played in one good Super Bowl, right? The only good Super Bowl he's ever played in was the last time they played the Eagles. I mean, when he played against the Bucs, it looked a lot like yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked a lot like Sunday, right? And then when he played against the 49ers, really both times, I mean, the first time they almost lost, and the second time it really wasn't him who won the game. People like to come into my face and talk about, Patrick was coming up on Brady and he is approaching him and, there's going to be a good comparison now. And I kind of dismiss those. I mean, you don't really know football if you're really comparing Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes right now. I don't really think so. The argument is if Patrick retired today, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. Possibly. Maybe. But to me, I mean, I think he still has to pass Joe. I don't think he's passed Joe Montana yet. I mean, Joe Montana, undefeated in Super Bowls, all those touchdowns, no interceptions. So you haven't passed Joe. And, I don't want to say he lost the game for them. I don't think he lost the game for them. But he had a very bad game. I know the line wasn't, playing well. But that's been the line all year, Z. That's been the line all year. So you're dropping back to pass, and as soon as you hit your back foot, you're already looking to run. It's like, nah, man, you got to deliver the football and take a hit. You got to expect your guy to break open. You got DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster. You got players running their routes. There's got to be some trust there.
I forgot Hollywood Brown was on the team until the third quarter.
Yeah, and he was largely inaccurate. He was throwing the ball. He looked like Danny Dimes throwing the ball at people's feet, throwing the ball behind people. It's like, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Like, at one point, I was watching with a bunch of friends. Like, what is? Somebody said, "What a shit throw," and they were right. It was a shit throw. Get it up. Hit him in the chest. What are you doing? And the next person I'm gonna blame is the play calling. What happened to the running game? I know you're down, Z, but come on. They only rushed the ball like 7 times outside of Mahomes.
Yeah.
You're not. I understand you're down, but you gotta run the ball. Otherwise, these pass rushers come at you full force. Run the ball 3 straight times if you have to. You gotta show them something other than this drop back pass that you can't block. You're not blocking it. And the last one is I'm going to put it on the offensive line. But again, the offensive line has been this offensive line the most of the season. They moved Joe Thuney to left tackle. He ain't a left tackle, man. So what are we going to do? How are we going to defend ourselves? Are we going to run double tight? Are we going to let the back chip? Are we going to put some help? They're only rushing 4, guys. Mm-hmm. They're rushing 4. Can you give them 3 seconds? Give them 4 seconds? I mean, call quick slants, call quicker plays. So I don't know why they got so scared and so worried when they were down. They abandoned the run. They completely abandoned the run. And they were able to just come all full force at them, and it was a wrap. I mean, the game was over. I will give them the respect, and I'll give the respect to Patrick Mahomes in this regard. I didn't count them out until they came out of halftime and they went 3 and out. I was like, all right, all that rah-rah, all that talk in the locker room, you get the ball back and nothing. You can't get to midfield. And that's what Tom was saying. You could hear Tom was gloating a little bit. You can hear he was laughing. And he was kind of like, in his commentary, you can tell he was feeling himself. But how could he not? I mean, you had a chance to rise from the ashes in this situation. You had a real chance to show something, and he scored garbage time touchdowns. Z, those touchdowns were scored. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 267 yards. Garbage. It's all garbage time. None of that was real. So, I'm not. I think the thing people forget about Brady is he had like 2 careers, right? Mm-hmm. He had 2 Hall of Fame careers, right? It was the first half where he had a really bunch of nobodies, really good defense, but those were hard contested Super Bowls. Then you had the second half, the Gronk years, and where it was he was already he had changed into the emerging greatest of all time and the emerging quarterback, and he's not dead, he's not down. We've got to keep fighting and keep playing against him because that's Tom Brady over there. That was the second half. So unless Patrick could do that, because he's gonna play a large part of his career without Kelsey, without Andy Reid. So unless he's able to do that, I mean, we really can't have that conversation. And in the Tom Brady in the games that he played in the Super Bowl, he always lost by a score. He always had the ball and got a chance to put his team on top at the end. This shit was over in the first quarter, arguably.
Never at any point was Tom Brady running for his life. Patrick Mahomes,
Giants.
Well, he took the sacks, but he wasn't like scrambling for his life.
No, the Giants. No, he was running. No, I get what you're saying. He wasn't on skates like Mahomes was,
right?
But he was taking licks and trying to get away. He's just not as mobile.
Right. But that's the thing. You can pressure Brady off of his spot, and we've seen that a million times. Where they differ is that Patrick Mahomes has the elusiveness to get rid of it. But Patrick Mahomes Mahomes also has a history of ankle and foot problems. So how much longer could you realistically do that before you have to say, I'm a pocket passer and I have to be a pocket passer?
He's at some point he's gonna have to change the way he plays, and what are you able to do when that happens? Right, exactly.
So that's the adjustment that the Chiefs are gonna have to go into the offseason, and priority number one's got to be left tackle. They had Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown's a stud left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that relationship soured. So if you had Orlando Brown on this line, I'm not saying it's a different outcome, but it's certainly a cleaner pocket for Patrick Mahomes.
Well, Z, I think these were things that they tried to address, right? I mean, they drafted left tackles the last 2 seasons. They traded for DJ Humphries, and at the end of the day, they had to put Thuney out there, and he was doing good. He was doing good. He didn't give up a sack all year. He saved it all for Sunday.
Right. That they picked the worst time to have their worst game in 5 years. But he really did.
Well, we always talk about how Andy Reid, he prepares and you give them the bye, you give them 2 weeks, they're going to be ready. You gave Vic Fangio and that guy who's lost to you 10 times, you gave him 2 weeks who he's really tried a bunch of things against your team, and he had the recipe. He was ready, and it was a bunch of things. It was all of it culminating together, right? Earlier in the year we talked about like this was the kind of team that got in the first round of the playoffs and got popped, right? But then after they beat Baltimore, they beat Baltimore in opening week, but after they had really close games and really good victories, I bought in. I did buy in, and I didn't think that they were going to get popped in the first round, and they didn't. They pretty much cruised through, the AFC, but then you got to the Super Bowl and you got exploited. I mean, you had your biggest deficit all year on that day, and that's a wrap.
And the narrative about how the refs favored the Chiefs, that was put to bed pretty quickly in this game because there was nothing. Like, there was nothing. There was that one egregious offensive pass interference call against A.J. Brown.
Which was trash.
Yeah.
Trash.
The only thing I could say is he got his fingers into the face mask. That's the only thing I could say. But
I don't think you call that.
Yeah, no. But that's
Pereira said you don't really call that.
Yeah, but if you are going to call it, the reason why you're calling it is because the fingers got into the face mask. But there really wasn't anything.
Face.
Yeah, anything beyond that, you can't say You can't. There was nothing to feed the narrative of the Zebras favor the Chiefs.
No.
There's nothing.
I think on top of getting a tackle, I do think they need to address the running back situation. Pacheco just wasn't the same after coming back from injury. Kareem Hunt is good, but he's not what this offense needs.
Mm-hmm.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire got released in the middle of the season, so I think they're going to be in the market for a running back. And you know what? They'll be back. I'm not really counting them out. It's just that everybody else is getting a little better, and there's a blueprint to beating them. There always was. It's just that it's hard to fulfill it, but the Eagles did. And, the story is always in the losing team's locker room, but let's move over to the Eagles' locker room. They bested the Chiefs in all three phases to win their second championship in the last 8 years. The Chiefs were on the verge of a dynasty, but Z, is this the beginning of the Eagles' reign?
It's hard not to say yes. It really is hard not to say yes. But there is competition. So you do have that. Let's not count out the Lions just yet, right? They definitely soured things with their loss to the Commanders. I think they will be back. They'll retool and they'll be back. They do need to address how to keep their players healthy. Much in the way.
Though. They lost their coaches too, Z. Don't forget that. They lost all their coaches. All of them. Even the assistant coaches they lost.
Yeah.
So they're restarting there too.
But here's the thing. Here's what they didn't lose. They didn't lose the players. Like, in this league, coaches come and go. Schemes change. This happens all the time. You're hired till you get fired. That's just the nature of the beast. Can they find somebody? You don't have to run Ben Johnson's offense. Right? Ben Johnson's going to be in Chicago. He ain't going to run Ben Johnson's offense. You're going to dance with what you got. So if you can find a guy, or if you already have a guy on your roster, right, your coaching tree that has some semblance of creativity, that has some semblance of like understanding of what you guys are, they won't skip a beat. You expect the Commanders to be better. You may see a sophomore slump from Jaden Daniels, but they're here to stay. That team is built for the long run. God knows what the hell's happening in the NFC West, right?
Well, it's interesting you say NFC West, because I was going to say, the Rams could have easily been in the Super Bowl, Z.
Dude.
They're the only
If
team.
they ran the fucking ball, they would have knocked off the Eagles.
They're the only team that really contested the Eagles during this playoff run.
Yeah.
They were winning in the third quarter. And they came back in the fourth quarter, and they were in position to score a touchdown. And you're right, they didn't run the ball. It started to snow, and it's fourth down. But I mean, they held Jalen Hurts to 15 of 20 for 128 yards. Yeah, Saquon went nuts, but maybe that was part of their game plan. Let's not forget that young Ram defense and how well they played against the Eagles.
Yeah. Jared Verse, like, he's a stud. He's going to be there. The question mark really is, what's Cooper Kupp's status? What's Matthew Stafford's status?
Stafford is the thing. Let's not forget with Stafford, they restructured his deal last year because he wanted more money. He's like, I want a raise. They gave him the raise, but in doing that, they took away all his guarantees for next season.
Right.
So you've got 9 quarterbacks, Z, that are making over $50 million next year. And Stafford is going to be making less than half of that.
Right.
I've got to imagine that he's going to go to management and be like, I need more money, or I ain't fucking playing. And if you're the Rams, you got to say, okay, well, we've got a young team. We're trying to move forward. We're going to trade Kupp. We really just need a bridge quarterback at this point. Could we trade Stafford to one of these teams that need a quarterback? Could we trade him to the Browns? Could we trade him to the Giants? What could we trade him to the Colts? Because I know there's this next year, this year's draft, the 2025 draft, there aren't any real quarterbacks in there. But do we sign a Sam Darnold, right? For $100 million?
Right.
It's a bridge, because we're not going to pay the top market for Matthew Stafford. We're just not going to do that.
Or do you keep Jimmy G? Jimmy G's already his backup. You have two NFL caliber starters in that quarterback room.
You might keep Jimmy G, but I don't think Jimmy G's a guy who's going to be starting 17 games for you. He can play 4 or 5, but he breaks down, he gets hurt. That ship has sailed for Jimmy G. So I think it's just it's just an idea. I mean, you got an Aaron Rodgers out there. You laugh, but you don't got to pay him what you're going to have to pay Matthew Stafford.
Is Devontae Adams coming with him?
That is a contingency, I'm sure. And is that bad if you're the Rams? I don't know.
The one thing you got to worry about is coming off what you saw with the Jets. Does that kind of make them pariahs? Because shit went south. They can't deny that shit went south.
Well, hold on. In his last 10 games, I believe he had 18 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. I mean, he fucking balled out his last 10 games. And remember, this was a man coming off of an Achilles injury. So, if you look at the numbers-wise, he's the best quarterback in fucking Jets history. So,
what does that tell you about Jets history?
I'm just trying to say, there was more going on there and why it didn't work. But you team him with a Sean McVay, a Puka Nacua, possibly a Devontae Adams in that system, it could work. But to answer the question, is this the start of an Eagles dynasty? I think it is. You look at the moves that Howie Roseman made. I mean, he really turned fucking, water into wine. It's really incredible the fruits that came from that trade of Carson Wentz that brought them Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Carter, and Cooper DeJean. All those guys had an impact on Sunday. I think they can keep this train going. I believe in Jalen Hurts. I think he's a very talented quarterback, and he knows what it's like to be in the ups and downs. This was a man who was starting for Alabama in the national title game, and at halftime, Nick Saban said, "Sit down, son. We're going with Tua," and didn't look back. Tua won the national title. Hurts then had to go to Oklahoma the next year to continue to play quarterback and develop his passing, which he did, which helped him get drafted. And we've seen the emergence of this team. 2 years ago, they were in the Super Bowl. Last year, they had a catastrophic collapse. They had a collapse last year, but they were one of the best teams in the NFL last year. And they just collapsed. Wound up, losing in the first round. So I do think this could be the start of something. They have a lot of talent. They play good defense. They have a running back now. They can run the ball. They have two outstanding receivers. I would argue to trade A.J. Brown because he's a problem and you don't really need him. So, yeah, I do think they have something here. I think they could be a problem for years to come.
Much like the LA Dodgers, this is going to be something that's going to eventually implode. It's just a matter of time. So eventually, these guys are going to get paid. Saquon already got his money, right? You're going to have to take care of Devontae Smith. You're going to have to take care of, you're going to have to take care of your defensive players. Eventually, this stuff adds up. Now, everything broke right for them this year. Can you count on everything breaking right again? That's the question. And in the NFL, we see worst to first more than any other league. You see that all the time. Fortunately for them, that ain't happening because the worst was the Giants. The Giants aren't sniffing them. But they can get pushed. They absolutely can get pushed. And this team, right, has that arrogance. It has that hubris about it. And I believe that is part of what led to the collapse last year. They started to believe the hype and start to believe the headlines. And to be fair, Sirianni backed it up, right? Said he learned from that last year. And he did. He brought in Kellen Moore, He brought in Vic Fangio. He said, I can't do this by myself. He brought in veteran people who know more than he does. That's an element of humility. I still don't like the guy. I think he's got a punchable face. But I do have to respect the fact that he acknowledged that he didn't know everything. The guy who's the smartest guy in the room usually ends up getting fired. But it took Saquon having the season of his career. Is he going to be able to do that again? Probably not. He's not going to finish third in MVP again. Like, that is it. Like, that's like the highlight. You cited the A.J. Brown situation. Are they going to be able to keep him happy? Probably not. Probably not. So, it's only a matter of time. Now, Howie Roseman is very good at his job. Right? He'll recoup more picks. Will these picks will they end up being as good as the guys they're replacing? That's the nature of sports. We don't know. You think so. That's why you take them. But ultimately, you don't know. So, for every Jalen Hurts, there's a Daniel Jones. Right? For every Kadarius Toney, there's a Devontae Smith. And I'm not just talking about Giants ones. Those are the only ones I can think of at the moment.
Yeah.
But I could keep going. We could keep going about shit Giants picks. But you know what? I don't want to bore everybody. But let's talk about the NFL honors, right? We're honoring the Eagles. Let's talk about the rest of the league. The NFL honors took place before the Super Bowl, and there were a few surprises. Josh Allen took home the MVP award, Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year, and Kevin O'Connell won Coach of the Year. Any surprises for you?
Yeah, I'm not buying into Josh Allen being the MVP. I mean, listen, I get that he had his most efficient year as a quarterback, but did he have his best year as a quarterback? I mean,
no.
I totally agree that, like, if you take Josh Allen off that team, they don't make the playoffs and they don't make the AFC Championship game. But, man, that could be said for Lamar. That could be said for Patrick. That could be said for all the quarterbacks. So I didn't really agree with Josh Allen winning the MVP. I thought Saquon, if I had to vote this year, probably would have been for Saquon. And my next one would have been for Lamar. I mean, Lamar was all pro. How does the all-pro quarterback not win the MVP? I mean, I don't get it. And then if we want to take it a step further, Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the league, and he gets Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, yeah, I guess he came back. Sam Darnold doesn't get Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, I didn't really feel that. I was fine with KOC getting Coach of the Year. I think an argument could have been made for Sirianni, especially after the collapse last year. I think it was really impressive what McVay was able to do. I mean, the Rams were dead in the water. I mean, none of us thought the Rams were going to do anything. They need the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, it's that award show is just an award show. I don't really buy into it. Something like the Pro Bowl. Like, you get guys going to the Pro Bowl as like the fourth or fifth best quarterbacks. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't understand it. So, no, I didn't like the way the awards were handed out. Another thing I didn't like that happened is I don't like that Eli Manning didn't get into the Hall of Fame. I thought he was a Hall of Famer, especially Sterling Sharp. It's like, it's nice that you're putting him in. It's nice, and Jared Allen. I mean, I guess
Antonio Gates.
Antonio Gates deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But no, I think Adam Vinatieri? Huh? Adam Vinatieri's not a first ballot Hall of Famer? Really? You kidding me? I know he's a kicker, but man, he had some really important kicks in his career. And yeah, and Eli, I think he did things that nobody else could do, right? He beat Tom Brady twice on the biggest stage, largely because of passes that he made and his ability to play. Yeah, he wasn't the best regular season quarterback, and his numbers weren't the best numbers, but it doesn't take away from what he did. And yeah, he'll probably get in next year, but I think he should have got in this year.
I think it's the 500 record that really kind of soured people on Eli Manning, but that was the latter part of his career when the Giants weren't very good. You know, after the boat incident in 2015 and the whole Ben McAdoo error, what do you expect? Like, that was the beginning of John Mara's tanking of this team when they hired that guy who looked like he was wearing a trench coat. But KOC is fine. I would have gone personally for Dan Quinn for the turnaround that he's done. I think that would have been a better bet. I guess from the standpoint of he had to take Sam Darnold and turn him into the Sam Darnold that we saw this year. Like maybe that's what it is, for overcoming the adversity of losing JJ McCarthy. But still, Dan Quinn had to go in there after the Ron Rivera debacle and be the steadying force, and had to remake that team with Jaden Daniels, with Bobby Wagner at linebacker, with Frankie Louvu, who's still jumping over the line trying to time the snap. This was a remake from head to toe, and this team is in contention. The Josh Allen MVP is weird from the standpoint of if he wasn't good enough to make first team All-Pro, how is he the MVP? I agree. Yeah, Dan Orlovsky valiantly tried to defend this, but he valiantly loves him some Josh Allen. So, you know, it's very skewed. I would have gone with Saquon Barkley. Like, when was the last time you saw a season like this, as dominant as it was?
Like Derrick Henry a couple years ago.
Derrick Henry, CJ2K maybe.
And at that time, I thought he should have won the MVP that year too.
Yeah,
I think it was 2 years ago. Derrick Henry,
right?
Was like
they don't come around often. Eric Dickerson, CJ2K, Derrick Henry, Adrian Peterson. So they bubble up every once in a while. But to be that prolific, I think you got to go with Saquon Barkley on that one.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with Jared Verse. Don't have an issue with Jaden Daniels. You know, don't have an issue with Patrick Surtain. It's fine. I mean, unless you were going to do like Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals, like the league leader in sacks, like maybe. But then again, the Bengals defense was shit with him. You got all those sacks and the team was still fucking terrible. So, you know, it goes to show. But the glaring ones are MVP, and the glaring ones for me are also Coach of the Year. As a Giant fan, I am disappointed that Eli did not get in on the first ballot. I understand. The regular season record, it's difficult for some people to ignore. So, he should be in next year. I think he will be in next year. Sterling Sharp was a cool moment. He was on a trajectory before he got derailed by injury. Eric Allen, solid player. Good analyst. I don't know. He doesn't scream Pro Bowler to me. Jared Allen had some good years with Kansas City, had some good years with Minnesota.
Again, it's like Eric Allen, like he's a corner. Where are we putting him? We're putting him next to Ron Woodson? Putting him next to Charles Woodson, or putting him next to Dion, like
Darrelle Revis.
Darrelle Revis? Like who are we putting him next to? That's the thing, you know. Just put people in. Just put people in. It's okay. We don't have to put people in. It's foolish.
Yeah, the fact that Adam Vinatieri didn't get it, I didn't even. That's interesting. Reggie Wayne still isn't in, man. Like Reggie Wayne. Come on, Reggie Wayne's a Hall of Famer. Dude, he's a great wide receiver. Come on now.
One ring. I don't know. I'd have to look at those numbers. I guess, I mean, if Terrell Owens is in, I guess he could be in.
Right. Marvin Harrison's in.
Marvin Harrison was better than Reggie Wayne. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the cases are made. Like, the cases are pretty there. And he was Peyton Manning, one of Peyton Manning's primary targets. So, I think that's, you know, you're going to feast off of that for sure.
When owning a home, it's important to have heating and cooling professional available when things go wrong. Air Care Technicians is a veteran-owned HVAC company servicing the Westchester area. They are licensed to service, repair, maintenance, and replace all HVAC units. If your unit is not running properly or you would like to improve the air quality in your home, contact Air Care Technicians for a free quote. They offer same-day and emergency services for all of your needs. You can reach them at 914-315-1547. Air Care Technicians, 914-315-1547. Well, let's stick with the Hall of Fame discussion. It appears the Aaron Rodgers era in New Jersey is over. Aaron flew to New York last week to meet with Jets' new coach, Aaron Glenn, and your golf buddy, General Manager Moogie. There's been nothing official, but the feeling from the meeting is that Rodgers will not play for the Jets next season. So, Z, where do the Jets go from here, and where does Aaron Rodgers play next season?
So
the story I heard was that he's still on the fence of whether or not he wants to play. And the Jets flew him up because they wanted to be professional about it. They wanted to talk to him about the fact that they're not going to wait for him to decide if he's going to play or not, and that they're going to be moving in a different direction. And the idea is that they like the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, on the field. They don't like the garbage that happens off the field.
Yes.
McAfee show, the things that he says into the media, the things he shadow talks about the owner. That's just we don't need this. In 2 years, the record's not been that great. The numbers over 2 years are not that great, and they consider themselves a team that is not going to rebuild. They think they still have all the pieces to compete. It's just not going to be with him.
Well, from what I understand, reports indicated that the Jets stipulated that if he was to come back next year, that he could not go on the Pat McAfee show. So, he can't talk to his own press secretary. That seems to be a problem. That's the line of communication seems to have been severed, or the desire was to sever that line of communication. The Aaron Rodgers debacle, you said error. I didn't know if you said error or era, so I'm going to go with error because, as it turns out, it was a really bad fucking idea. So it got you nothing. Realistically, it hastened Zach Wilson's departure, but he was probably going to end up gone anyway. But it definitely sped things up. So there's that. You traded unnecessary draft capital for Devontae Adams, who is probably not coming back either. You went all in on Hassan Reddick.
They have to decide what they're going to do with Devontae, right? Because I think he's owed $30 million this year.
Jesus Christ!
So right, so you have to trade him or cut him.
Right.
I would assume that they would cut him. I don't think they're going to be able to find a trade partner, considering people know that they're not going to pay him $30 million to play this season.
He'll be a June 1st cut, just like Aaron Rodgers. They'll do that to.
You said Hassan Reddick was another mess.
Letting Bryce Huff go, who played in the Super Bowl. Letting Mekhi Becton go, got himself a ring. So very interesting. Braden Mann was on that team, former Jet punter, got himself a ring. So congratulations to all the Jets that got rings on
Aaron
Sunday.
Could move on and get himself a ring.
Possibly, it's quite possible. There are lots of places that you can go if you're Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers doesn't seem like a good fit because Mike Tomlin doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to put up with his shit.
See, I disagree. I actually think that's one of the best places for him to go. It's because for that reason, because he's not going to put up with his shit. He's been down this road before with Antonio Brown. He's been down this road with Ben, Le'Veon Bell. Russell Wilson just came in this year, and it's going to be football. And imagine if you're able to get the twofer, right? If you're able to bring in Devontae Adams to be your one, George Pickens to be your 2, Aaron Rodgers to be your starting quarterback, and you're in Pittsburgh that has a really good defense.
And their running game is stout.
And really, the idea is, if it does go to shit this year, next year is the quarterback draft. So we are good. I mean, we really, and if he plays well enough, we can draft our quarterback in the 20. Kenny Pickett got a ring, by the way.
Oh, Kenny Pickett. Congratulations, Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett also has more passes than Dak Prescott in the Super Bowl. We can get on that. And Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Just, it just
and
keeps
Tony
going.
Romo.
And Tony Romo. But you could essentially bring in the next quarterback draft next year and have him play under Aaron for a year or two. I mean, it could happen. I mean, Mike Tomlin likes Aaron Rodgers. He's always had respect for Aaron Rodgers. So I disagree. I think that's a very big possibility.
It's not about Mike Tomlin. It's about Aaron Rodgers. At the end of the day, can he subjugate his ego? And he has yet to establish the fact that he can do that. He is the center of attention. Always, always, always. And the Steelers they're the ultimate team. If you're a distraction, you're not there very long. Le'Veon Bell, gone. Antonio Brown, gone. Juju, gone. Deontay Johnson, gone. Like that's the move. Now, an interesting one to me, and it may not be available depending on what they feel about their young quarterback, the Colts. I'm intrigued by Aaron Rodgers on the Colts. I think with Jonathan Taylor, it's very similar to the situation in Pittsburgh. Got some decent wideouts. He's going to bring Devontae Adams with him where he goes because that's his buddy. You have Michael Pittman in there already. You have a couple pieces on defense. It could be better, but I think that's a winnable division. That is certainly a winnable division because you're running up against Houston, they're running out of receivers. You have the Jaguars who stink, and you have the Titans who stink. So you're going to be in contention. So that one's interesting to me. Like you said before, the Rams, if Jimmy is gone and Matthew Stafford retires, that's a good fallback option. Aaron Rodgers is going to have his fair share of suitors. One team that cannot sign him is the New York Giants. Please, for the love of
Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah, Vegas could do it depending on what they do at 2. I mean, what they do with their first round pick. I'm not sure because if Shedeur Sanders by some grace of God falls to them, they're taking Shedeur Sanders. I think it's going to be too much for them to pass up. And then you get the whole show at that point.
Well, hold on. They don't pick at 2.
They're
at 7.
They're at 7. So sorry. If they do manage to, if he manages to fall to them, they're taking him. But they could also trade up. I've also heard rumors that they would be willing to entertain trading up to get their guy. So from a glam standpoint, Rodgers fits in Vegas, but does he fit in on that team? And Devontae Adams just left that team. That's something that's very interesting. Who's your number one wideout there? Jacoby Myers?
Yep. Well, Bowers.
You do have Bowers, but that's a bare cupboard, man. Who's your running back?
Zamir White.
Yeah.
Amir Abdullah.
Oh, jeez. Is Theo Riddick still around? Can we get some old Detroit Lions? Can we just do that? Oh my God. They could do it, but it seems like a bare cupboard.
Oh, mine.
So, as far as the Jets, I think they can rid themselves of this and move on and kind of wash the taste out of their mouth. Just bring in a bridge guy and just kind of go from there. It's just kind of wake yourself up from this nightmare that has been the past 2 seasons when you decided to go all in and you blew up your franchise to do it. So,
Well, it's interesting to hear Aaron Glenn talk. I mean, he sounds like Herm Edwards. He sounds like what Robert Saleh was supposed to be. So
Everybody
we'll see.
sounds like that in the opening press conference.
This is true. We'll see. I'm curious to see also if Robert Saleh goes back to being the rah-rah guy.
Step outside of your safe area and make a statement without saying much. With FCK Clout Lifestyle Apparel. Embrace the colorful chaos and stay emotionally regulated in their graphic tees, hoodies, snapbacks, accessories, and more. Go to fckclout.com today and check out current season and past season merchandise for men and women. Get it while you can. That's fckclout.com. Check them out today. fckclout.com.
You're not going to believe this, Z, but AD era in Dallas is already in jeopardy.
No.
2 games in, and AD has a groin strain, which
What?
appears to be more serious than the first time he injured it 10 days ago.
What?
Yeah. And in the East, Joel Embiid, who already barely plays, said he thinks he needs another knee surgery. Sounds wonderful. Let's sign you up. So which general manager cried first this week? Daryl Morey or Nico Harrison?
It's a great question. Rob Pelinka's got thrown in there too because the Mark Williams trade got rescinded because he failed his physical.
But I don't think he cried. His team's above 500. They got Luka Doncic. Their future is bright. You know, he's gonna have people coming to their games to see Luka, and he'll have Slovenian night now. So. I don't think he's crying. I think he's on the golf course saying, how the fuck did I do this?
It's got to be Nico Harrison. It has to be. It was already a risky gamble, right? You knowingly took on Anthony Davis. You knowingly gave up Luka Doncic. You knowingly entertained this only with the Lakers. Like, this was your baby. For defensive purposes. He's 31. He's brittle. He's fragile. You knew this. This was the crux of my argument last week. Now, you were trying to spin the positives of it. Wise man once said, and that wise man was Uncle Frank from Home Alone. You be positive, I'll be realistic. So, I'm going to roll with Uncle Frank here. He is who he is. Like, you can't.
That's why I don't think Nico Harrison cried, because he couldn't trade for Anthony Davis and thinking he wasn't going to get hurt. If you made that trade and you assumed this man was going to be healthy for the rest of the season, then you're an idiot. You know, now if you're Daryl Morey and you have been not playing this man for the majority of this year in the hope that you can play him later in the year for a playoff run, and then this guy comes out and says, I need another knee surgery after you traded for Paul George and you got rid of your coach, and you're just like,
you could have blown this team up.
So that's why I think Daryl Morey cried. Because they can't win without him. They pretty much put all their eggs in that basket. Where I think in the Morrison situation, in the Nico situation, you knew this was possible. If you did this and you didn't think this was possible, then you, my friend, are a fool. The whole thing is as long as this man can come back we're in February?
Yes.
As long as this man could come back in about a month and play 6 weeks of good basketball and then play in the playoffs, we're all good. Because the whole idea is they're supposed to get Lively back next month. If everybody is healthy next month, then they're fine. Because now I think one of their big guys, Gafford, I think just got hurt. So as long as they're able to come back and all play together, because that's what people are doing now, Z. They realize that we can't play a whole NBA season. For whatever reason, people did it in the 60s and 70s. We can't do it now. We need to play the last The last 25 games, we've got to play well, and we've got to carry that momentum into the playoffs. That's all we need to do.
You got to figure that the Sixers... The Sixers are definitely way more disappointed from the longer view, because you said that this was a plan. Their plan was to kind of lay in the weeds. Well, they're in 11th, right? If the season ended right now, they wouldn't even be in the playoffs. The Mavericks, when they made this trade, I believe they were higher than they were, because now they're right in the throes of the play-in tournament. So it's the Wolves, the Mavs, the Kings, and the Warriors. The Kings just gave up on their season. They traded De'Aaron Fox. So that tells you the kind of group that they're in. So you figure the Warriors are going to make a move because they just got Jimmy Butler. Below them, you have the Suns and the Spurs. The Spurs who just got De'Aaron Fox. Can they jump the allegedly toxic Suns? Possibly. Can the Suns figure shit out and get into the 10th spot? Possibly. This could be, like you said, a month out. Like if they can tread water for a month, you got four teams there who are like gonna jump your ass. So you may have potentially tanked your season for this. Yeah, Luka's fat. I get it. He's a big boy. He's a big boy who likes his beer. Like Michael Finley took it out of his hand at a post gamer. I know. I saw that. But you're telling me that keeping Luka wouldn't keep you afloat? This team was in the NBA Finals last year. You just shot yourself in the foot, in my opinion. So, the Sixers knew what they were doing. The Mavericks volunteered this. So, that's just I'm just going to remind you of that. So, get your Kleenex and start, wiping away the tears. Speaking of tears, these aren't tears of sadness. These are tears of joy. Pete Alonso is back, baby. He finally signed his contract, a 2-year, $54 million year with the Mets. Apparently Maserati prices for a Nissan.
Ha, it's my line.
Met fans are saying that now the Mets have signed Pete, they officially won the offseason. Is that how you feel? Another one that was written by D for me. Turn it back on you.
I don't see how. I mean, if your goal was to be still in third place in the division, I mean, they're not better than the Phillies. They're not better than the Braves. I don't get. First of all, I don't understand how Pete signs this contract. I don't get it. Because if he has an injured season, or if he plays like shit this year, he is getting ugats for the rest of his career. Like, he's really put it all in on this season, which, I mean, it's nice of you to think that you can do that, but I don't see how it happens. I get, we joked about, he's going to go to the Giants and be in fourth. Yeah, he might be in fourth this year, but the Giants are willing to build around you being the guy. You ain't the guy in New York. The guy is the guy they're paying almost $1 billion. That's the guy. So you have a chance to go to the Giants, then build around you, and imagine if you're able to come out of that situation on top, or best the Dodgers, or best the Padres in some way, shape, or form. But to go back to the Mets, this is such like with your tail between your legs after all the shit that was talked, after all the back and forth. This is how you end up 2 years, 54 with a player opt out after. He's gonna opt out, and then when he opts out, then what happens? We're gonna play this fucking game again? What makes you think that after this season you're gonna have such a great year that when you opt out, they're going to pay you. They ain't going to pay you. It's over. They've moved on. Especially, Z, if they win. If they win the World Series this year, then you are fucked. You are not getting paid because they're not going to pay you and no one else is going to pay you. Like, I don't get it. Even the Blue Jays were saying, yo, we got a first baseman, but you can come here and play. We'll figure it out. We'll give you more money. Like, what is it? I thought it was about the money. I don't know what it's about anymore. It ain't about the money. And you're right. And they paid a Maserati price for a Nissan. And they're really doing him a favor because nobody would pay that money for him for 2 years. This whole situation baffles me. It's almost like he was driving up the price on himself. Like, who are you talking to? Like, the Giants are like, yeah, we'll give you 5 years, $150 million. Come on and come over here and play. All right, I'll get back to you. What? What do you mean you'll get back to me? Who else is fucking offering you money, dude? Like, what are you talking about? And the only thing I'm curious about is who's driving this. Is it Pete or is it Boris? Because I'm starting to think it's Pete. I find it hard to believe Boris was like, yo, you should really go back to the Giants. You should go back to the Mets for 2 years, $54 million. That's the best deal we got, man. That's where we need to go.
Well, no. Well, I can tell you this much. It all started from that long-term extension, that 7-year contract for $180 that Pete declined. Banking on the market. Well, the market was set by Paul Goldschmidt. If you want the money for the years that you were looking for, you needed to get in and sign early. What did I say at the beginning of the offseason? That Scott Boras' clients needed to overcorrect from last year. You could not wait. You can't wait. You got to sign early because there will not be seats at the table. And there weren't. How many first basemen went off the board? Like, immediately. One went, and then like 5 went after that.
Fucking Christian Walker got a job.
Christian Walker got paid. Yes, he did.
Christian Walker got a job. Right then and there. You should, right then and there. It's like, all right, we need to go to San Francisco. Fuck, go to the Twins. I don't know. 2 years, 50. Come on, Z. You're telling me that if you were Pete Alonso, you're as good as Pete Alonso is. You've had the career Pete Alonso has. You're going to sign a 2-year, $54 million deal with the Mets? If you were Pete Alonso, you really would sign that deal?
If I'm Pete Alonso and I'm happy if I'm happy in the situation that I'm in, if I like where I am.
I'm saying you're Pete Alonso. You are him. You haven't won shit. They just paid $1 billion to Juan Soto. You've got offers from the Blue Jays, the Giants. We'll throw the Twins in there, and we'll even throw the Cubs in there. Who knows? You've got offers from all those teams. They're all offering you more money and more years than the Mets are. And the Mets, you're literally fighting with the Mets. They're fighting with the Mets daily to try to get more money and more years. And the last thing they say is, Pete, this is it. We'll give you 2 years, $54 million. Z, we'll give you 2 years, $54 million. We'll give you a fucking player opt-out. This is it. And I don't want to hear anything else about this. Either take this or go somewhere else. And you hang up the phone, and what do you say to Scott Boras?
Well, for me...
And they hang up first.
Take
it or leave it. Click.
If you have better...
That's how it went down, Z. That's how it went down. There's nobody other than Cohen himself that could tell me it went any differently than that. Because everybody was getting sick of it. Everybody was getting sick of it. Because it was every day. Every day. It's Pete. It's $254 million, 2 years, $30 million the first year. Take it or leave it. Click. What do you tell Scott Boras?
If I want to be a Met, if I want to stay where I am,
You're Pete.
I want to stay where I am. I want to stay where I am.
You want to stay here.
Yeah.
You're fucking crazy, man.
Here's the thing. You like to think.
Wait. Tell me why you want to stay here. You want to win here. You don't want to give up your apartment. You like your girlfriend. Why? Why do you want to stay with the New York Mets for essentially one more year? Because that's all you're going to do. Because you're going to have to opt out. So Why?
Look at the landscape of the teams that you told me that want me. The San Francisco Giants. They're going nowhere. You can tell me that they're going to build around me, right?
Yeah, that's what they tell. That's a presentation they gave.
Bullshit.
You want to build?
Bullshit. You have Logan Webb and nothing else in the pitching staff. You have Matt Chapman, who had a decent year last year. You brought in Willie Adames. That still doesn't move the needle. You're probably still in fourth place, and you're going to be in fourth place for the foreseeable future, with or without me. The wise man once said, Charlie Finley said, we'll be in last place with you, we'll be in last place without you. So there we go. So I might as well go to the fucking Rockies then. So, to me...
Probably available. If you called them.
I could go play with Chris Bryant.
You could jack your numbers up for 2 years. That actually would have been the better deal. Go 2 years... Go to fucking Colorado, jack your numbers up, and make them trade you or opt out after a year. Even Cody Bellinger got a fucking job.
That brings me to the Cubs. I'm not enamored. Like it's a fine situation. I don't think that there's any kind of long-term winning there. They're just going to kind of hover around. The Brewers still run that division. That leaves me with the Blue Jays. I'm sorry. The Yankees are still really good. They got better. The Orioles are still better than me. I have a lot of talent, but I don't have... I can't get over the hump. For whatever reason, this group cannot get over the hump. You brought in Santander, you got Springer, got Vladdy, who's going to be gone next year. That's the dangerous part about the opt-out. So that's
shit.
But that's the reason why.
Shit.
But that's the reason why I think Pete stays the whole 2 years. Is that you're not going?
There's no way he's going to play on $24 million in the second year. There's no way he's playing on a 1-year contract at 32 years old. No way. No way. No way. No way. Because he'll be the best first. He'll be the second best first baseman on the market next year.
Who's 6 years older than the best guy. So you're still not going to get the money that you're looking for, dude. So you might as well.
No.
So you might as well stay in the place where you're comfortable. You might as well stay in the place where you have history. So I'm fine with this. He's fine with it. The only person who is not fine with it is Scott Boras. Because Scott Boras is about Scott Boras' pocket. He would rather his client end up in a place that is terrible for him, but great for Scott Boras. Like, that's his MO. And it wouldn't surprise me if more guys start to distance themselves from Scott Boras. How many times do you need to see it? How many times do we need to see it? We saw it 3 times last year. We've seen it multiple times in the past. Scott Boras is about Scott Boras. And it's clear that Pete values winning with this group. Right? Cohen brought in the big fish. It extends the batting order. They didn't win the offseason. That's delusional. They didn't win the offseason. Their team is better offensively. Pitching-wise, they can use another arm. Or 2. But they're still in the upper echelon of the National League. Can they make a repeat run to the National League Championship Series? Why not? This team is very talented. Stranger things have happened. The Braves are good enough to make the playoffs. The Phillies are good enough to make the playoffs. The National League Central is probably...
the Phillies are good enough to win the World Series.
They have not demonstrated that. If they did, Carlos Estevez would not have given up the Grand Slam to Francisco Lindor.
That's Rob Manfred's stupid playoff.
So they were there as a playoff game. Don't excuse it away. Right? It becomes it's an excuse when it happens to the Mets. So yeah, on paper, talent-wise, the Phillies are massive underachievers. They should have at least 2 by now with the roster they've put together. The problem is now they got to worry about the Dodgers. The Dodgers will have 22, and then they'll buy Bryce Harper. They'll figure out how to fucking do that. So that's what they're doing. They're playing 4-dimensional chess until the labor agreement ends and they're locked out. So that's what's going on here. You remain with a contender. You have protection in the batting order. Your numbers will go up. If he opts out, he's not getting what he thinks he's going to get. Because you're running up against Vladdy. 6 years younger, he's going to get the boatload of dough. Bottom line is this. If he's happy, if he's content, who are we to begrudge him? If this is what he wants to do. I'm sure he feels foolish for not taking the 7-year contract. That was a different regime, though. That was not David Stearns. David Stearns doesn't value first basemen like that. He doesn't. Look at his tenure in Milwaukee. And eventually he's going to end up as a DH. He's eventually, as sturdy as he is and as steady as he is, that body, it's made to be a DH. Better to be a DH not on the turf in Toronto, not in the cold winter, not the cold winter that is summer in Chicago, not in the left-handed hitting palace that is San Francisco. This is the spot for him. So, congratulations on your contract, Pete. And to the comment about, a Nissan and Maserati money. Right? No, Maseratis are much more expensive. Like, he's getting Nissan money. Maserati money is like Mike Trout. The problem is that you can't find any working parts. That's the problem. That's Maserati money for a broken down lemon. So Michael K, pump the brakes a little bit, especially since your team gave $218 million to Max Fried. So let's pump the brakes before we start talking about the obscene amount of pricing in Major League Baseball, where everybody's overpaid. Every single guy is overpaid. But single out Pete Alonso. Sure, makes sense. If this is what he's comfortable with, this is what he agreed to, then who are we to begrudge him?
You can't help but smile when you see a balloon. PopstarsBalloons.com offers spectacular balloon decor for all of life's events, specializing in custom balloon creations and installations for private events, corporate and school functions, photo shoots, brand events, and fundraisers. Led by certified balloon artists, the Popstars Balloon team shape balloons into custom works of art. Popstar Balloons provides full concept balloon design, build and installation services, as well as pre-assembled decor pieces available for pickup or delivery. Popstar Balloons is a woman-owned, small family business focused on providing professional balloon services using only high-quality, 100% biodegradable natural latex balloons made in the US and Italy. They consistently prioritize the safest use and handling of balloons in a sustainable and responsible manner. Pop Stars Balloons is located in Westchester County, New York, but likes to party at events throughout New York City, Connecticut, Long Island, and New Jersey. Pop Stars Balloons can also accommodate balloon decor services for destination events. No event too big, no event too small, and their custom personalization service is the perfect touch. They also offer a full line of event decor options like backdrop, prop rentals, tablescapes, dessert table setups, custom signs, and they always deliver with a smile. Whether you're looking for gift balloons, classic decor, or large-scale design for a big impact, Pop Stars Balloons will create the perfect decor for your theme, vibe, and space. So if you have an idea in mind or need inspiration, Pop Stars Balloons decor will be the cutting edge and spectacular. Visit popstarballoons.com to pop your next event.
It's the In Route, where friends of the show get a special segment with us. Want to be part of the action? Want to be the newest member of the In Crowd? Well, you know what to do. Hit us up, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in our DMs on IG at FadeRoutePodcast, or drop us a line on X at FadeRouteDNZ, and you could be next.
Joining us on the In Route today, we have the official scorer of the Cleveland Cavaliers, friend of the program, and former colleague of mine, Kristyn Okress. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. So glad to be here with you guys.
That's awesome. So we'll start you off with this. The Eagles blew out the Chiefs yesterday to dethrone the NFL champs 40-22. Patrick Mahomes was inefficient, under duress, and had multiple turnovers in the game. Lots of analysts consider him to be the best player in the league, consider him to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. How did the loss yesterday affect your view of him?
So it was really funny thinking about this because I think about halfway through the game when I was like, this game is trash. Like, it was just boring. There was nothing happening. And I was watching it with my dad and I go, this is going to become the question now, is like the legacy question, is what do we think? And I don't know if I'm in the minority with this, but it doesn't affect it for me. For me personally, okay. I think, the game was a stinker. I think they played like garbage. But at the end of the day, for me, I can't take that and have it actually change my view of Patrick Mahomes in general. Like, it just... Wow, okay. Yeah, and to be honest,
And you're just a fan of football. Like, you're a fan. It's not like you're a Chiefs fan. It's not like you're a Patrick Mahomes fan. You're just a fan, right? Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Right. And I was really torn for the game yesterday because I didn't know who I was like leaning towards, because it really doesn't impact me at all. So I was like, I wanted a good game in general. And I feel like it should, I should think that his legacy is a little up in the air more so than it was. But I look at it and it's like, okay, you went to 3 Super Bowls in a row. He had 2 MVPs, 2 rings. I can't take one, albeit horrible game and horrible showing, and use that against his body of work. I can't do it. I don't know. Okay,
3 MVPs. I think he's got 3 MVPs. I think he won the MVP in each of those Super Bowls.
That's right.
All right, it's fair. Yeah. So we know the NFL draft is not until May, but for the teams that did not make the playoffs, new season starts today. Each playoff team this year had a talented passer behind center. Deshaun Watson will not be ready for the Cleveland Browns 2025 season. I know you're broken up about that. Jameis Winston is a free agent. He was looking for work during Super Bowl week. He was asking where he should, put in his application, and DTR is not the answer. So, Kristyn, what should the Browns do at quarterback in 2025?
Well, here's the thing, right? Because we have to address the elephant in the room, Myles Garrett. So that has to come into play, because are we going to do what we can to keep him? Are we going to try to trade him and see what we can get? The thing is they have no money, right? I mean, everything's eaten up so far over the salary cap. I think there's so much just money that's being paid out. And I think at this point, you have the second pick. You're going to want to see what Tennessee does. But if Tennessee doesn't take Shedeur Sanders, I kind of think you just go with it. You know,
you think Deion would be on board with that?
I don't know. I'd like to think that he's. I mean, who's on board, right? I mean, but you got to try it. If it's available, you got to try it.
But does he pull an Archie Manning and say, "No, my kid's not playing for you"?
Kid's not playing there.
That's what I'm waiting to hear, because I think there's definitely a chance of that happening. But then, do we just say that it kind of becomes it's a typical draft, right? I mean,
or it also becomes like, too bad, we've got him, so someone's gonna have to trade us a lot to get him.
Can Shedeur Sanders play baseball? The Guardians could probably use him.
I heard the USFL is doing well.
They may need to. Yeah, they definitely may need to. That's the thing, is I think when you're looking at it, and I'm looking at the Myles Garrett piece, are we going to be a team that plays hardball, or are we going to try to keep everybody happy? Because all of the talk right now is about we have no intention of trading Myles. He's making it clear that he wants out of there. So they're already going to be tested with that. So I think this is another piece of that. I mean, Sanders is a good pick, assuming he doesn't go 1. I feel like you take him too, because
what would you have to be offered to trade Myles Garrett? Where then you're like, okay, wait a minute, we'll listen to this. I think this could be something here. Like, what would it have to be?
If we get people to believe that Mahomes' legacy is in jeopardy, there you go, throw him in there. It's fine. No, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need such a return because we already paid him out so much. And so that's my thing, is the issue that I have, I think just in general across all professional sports, right, is when a player ends up wanting out. It's how you end up going about it, because it hurts your own value, because now everybody knows that you want out. So nobody's going to offer anything because they know that they're just negotiating against themselves. And I think that's the problem, is because now it doesn't matter what you should be able to get. You're not going to get it because the word's already out there that he wants out. So you're going to have to be kind of desperate if you actually try to make the move. And that's why I don't think that you're going to get anything that's worth having by hurrying up and trying to get a trade. I always
Except
like the
when
idea
Deshaun Watson had to leave the Houston Texans, they seemed to get a lot from the Browns for him, even though they were trying to move
against
him.
Yourself, right?
Were like, he's not playing here, but he can play for any of you. Was it Atlanta? It was Atlanta. It was Cleveland. There was one other team that was vying for his services, and the Browns just
wasn't it the Jets?
It wasn't the Jets. It was one other team, though. It wasn't the Titans. It was another team. No, it wasn't.
I know
the
Atlanta.
There was one other team that was, maybe it's not Miami. Maybe Miami. No, maybe
they
it
had
was
two
Miami,
at that point.
They had two already.
They had two already.
Somebody else was in that sweepstakes, but But
I mean,
go ahead.
I like the idea. I still like the idea of the veteran quarterback, but who else are you going to get, right? Because it's a bridge quarterback. But it's even funny because as of now, even if you said, all right, we're going to pick up a veteran quarterback, you still can't afford him.
The anti-Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins. The antithesis of everything that Deshaun Watson stands for.
Right, but what veteran quarterback's going to want to go there? Like, Aaron Rodgers ain't going there, man.
Sam Darnold.
Can you afford Sam Darnold?
You have to pay Sam to go there a lot more than he would get anywhere else for him to consider that.
That's the problem.
And then maybe you could trade for Matthew Stafford, because this last year of his contract's not fully guaranteed. He's making less than $25 million. You might be able to negotiate something with the Rams, but then he might just retire. Fuck this, I'm not doing this.
Well, and then, because here's one of my favorite ones too that people were talking about is, can you recapture Flacco magic? But if I'm Flacco, I don't want to go back there. You had me.
No.
Yeah.
You had me.
Well, he just he's throwing the ball to little kids in the street in his offseason, so I'm sure he'll fit right in Cleveland. That works. I mean, that's what he's throwing.
They love him in Cleveland. They love him.
I think I think he could do it. Maybe you talk to the Colts about Anthony Richardson, because I don't think that he's the future there. I don't know, and take a flyer. I don't know. You're not going to get a veteran to come there. You'd rather retire. You'd rather just say, fuck this. Maybe
you'd rather go back to the couch.
Taylor? No.
They already did
go
that.
Back, relax a little bit.
They did that already, and he's like, I'm not going back. I'm not playing.
Screw that. No.
And that's the thing, though, man. Everybody loved him. It was the closest we got to the love that everybody had.
He had
for
a
Baker.
really good time,
and it was a magical time. It was a magical.
Yeah,
time.
I mean, they really botched that, didn't they? I mean,
you
had Baker Mayfield. He had the most touchdown passes in the league this past year.
And that's the thing too, is because when you bring up like the Myles Garrett piece as it relates to everything else, people are kind of forgetting that all contributed to it, because after Helmetgate had happened with Pittsburgh, Baker Mayfield put on the spot and kind of indirectly throws Myles Garrett under the bus a little bit. There's no place for that in our sport, which isn't untrue, and so it's kind of put him in a tough spot. And it's kind of like after that, there wasn't the same level of support, I think, with Myles Garrett and with his quarterback. My own speculation, obviously. But it's like all of those pieces came together. The OBJ, ordeal in Cleveland, and all of those things came together, and it just... They
were like a quarter away or 2 quarter away from beating the Chiefs, right?
They needed one stop, basically. They needed one stop.
One stop.
That's it.
They were balling that day.
Now if they would have gotten that stop, then we talk about Mahomes' legacy, right?
If I recall correctly, they actually knocked Mahomes out of that game, and Chad Henne was the one who finished it, if I recall correctly.
I believe, yeah. Because that somebody landed on his ankle or something, right?
It exploded. His
knee. Wasn't his knee on a quarterback sneak or something like that?
Something like that.
But let's moving over to basketball. Yeah. The Cavs have been a pleasant surprise this year. Yeah. They currently have the best record in the East and second best record in the league. Aside from you becoming the official scorer of the Cavs and having New Rochelle's own Ty Jerome on the team, why have the Cavs been so successful this year?
Ty Jerome, man, 6th man of the year. Let's just call it right now, please.
I'm calling it. It's my guy.
Everybody. And I will tell you my fun Ty Jerome story. But I think when the Cavs had made that decision to part ways with JB Bickerstaff, I think that was sort of them saying look, we think we have the talent, we believe in the roster, let's see it through. And I think Bickerstaff did a really great job developing that young core that we have. And then it was sort of like he's that developmental coach. So it wasn't, he couldn't translate it with Donovan Mitchell, right? And so we just weren't moving the ball enough, I think, last year. And now this year, watching this team, it's so fun. And I just feel like they've all kind of found that joy again with playing and watching the ball movement and watching everybody sort of be out there for everybody else. I think that's just made such a difference. And it doesn't hurt, too, that Mobley's outside shot, it's developed so much more. He would take a few outside shots like last year, but his 3-point shooting now, it's so great for what his position is, and I think Jared Allen's gotten stronger. But overall, I really think it's just the mentality of the team. Share the ball, be out there for the next guy, wanting everybody else to succeed, even if that means that you're not the one scoring. And it's just been such fun basketball. I love it so much.
Yeah, I really feel like their coach has been a difference too, right? He's a good coach.
He
knows his stuff. It's it's just you have to respect him and you have to listen to him and you have to play for him. And that was the problem that happened in Philly. They just got tired of listening to him, but he knows basketball. He's been around this league for so long and he can bring the best out of people. And you're right, Evan Mobley's shot has been on. My guy, Ty. So tell us your Ty Jerome story.
Oh yeah, okay, so. It stems back from when we had Jetty Osman on the Cavs, and at the time, that was my dad's favorite player because he just loved the hustle, gym rat mentality, all that type of stuff. So, season ticket holders. So my dad's there every game. He's missed one game in the last 6-7 years, and every time Jetty Osman goes to the line, he would wait and then he would just yell out one single MVP chant. And so it just became a thing. And so there was at one point, I think it got picked up on a Turkish website because Jetty Osman's Turkish. So people are like, oh man, somebody really loves him out here. And that was just a thing. So, fast forward, Jetty's gone. And so my dad's like, oh man, what am I going to do? Who's my favorite player going to be? And so last year, Ty Jerome only played in 2 games before he got hurt. So he's out for the whole year. So he comes back this year and he's just been so amazing. So I think it was after the first week of the year, my dad's like, oh man, Ty Jerome, poof, I think that's my guy. I think that's going to be my guy. And so he's become the new MVP guy. And so people in the section, they expect it, they know that it's coming. And then it was funny because my dad had a surgery back in, I think it was in December, and he was going to have to miss his first game. So I'm talking to my buddy that works over there, and I go, yeah, he's really bummed about it, this and that. And they go, wait a minute, your dad's the MVP guy? We've been looking for him for like years. Like, they want to know who it is. I was like, oh yeah, that's my pops. It's fine.
That's great.
And so they had like a little card, like from Ty Jerome for him as like a get well soon, and it's like that's his guy. Like that
Did
is
they really?
Nice.
Yeah,
Did they really?
Yeah, it was so great. They were like, oh, he was so happy like that we found out who it was and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's pops.
That's
like,
so
that's
cool.
Yeah,
New
so
Rose owned.
I know, right? I was like, New Rochelle, I own a proper
New
Rose.
So great.
So good.
So
man.
this was a recent promotion for you, right? To become the official scorer?
Yeah, so I had been doing stats, so I'm the primary stat inputter for the Charge, the G League team. And so this is, I think it's my 5th year doing it for that. And so essentially, like, I was helping fill in just wherever they needed me for the Cavs for like the past couple years. And then we had a little bit of turnover. A couple guys retired, moved on, stuff like that. And so I'm talking to, like the now crew chief, and he goes, all right, we're going to move you in to do the book. And I was like, whoa, like this is a little much, because it just seemed like so much pressure. And so they go, no, you're going to do the book. It'll be fine. And so I just kind of got like thrown into it. I had tried it once in preseason, and it was just a lot because there were so many active players. And so, yeah, I mean, like they threw me into it, and it's just been so fun, and like we'll rotate a little bit. Like if one of the vet guys, wants to do it. So I'll go between that and, working the scoreboard and helping out with stats and everything. But it's been amazing. It's been such fun.
Pencil or pen?
So we have a erasable pen.
Oh.
There you
I
go.
didn't believe it at first. I said, I don't buy that this works, but it actually works. There's a very specific type of pen, and it erases perfectly.
So, players are, superstitious and they have their game day routine. As an official scorer, do you have you established a game day routine yet? Or is it just kind of like show up and here I am?
So we have kind of like a little one. It's funny because now we joke around and say that it's like the best friend squad, because me and my cousin's husband, we work games together now. And so a lot of times we carpool. If we don't carpool, like we always like meet up at the same spot. Like the group before Cavs games, we all sort of just eat at the same table. Everybody hangs out. I think guys have their very specific routine of when they're going to go hit the restroom before they come back out and like all that stuff. So we have like our own little things, and none of them are interesting or impressive, but it's just sort of like, oh wait, we got to remember to go do this, or we got to remember to go take our lap around the arena, and all that stuff. That's fun.
I mean, it's a ritual. It becomes a ritual and a camaraderie at that point,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
completely.
Yeah, it's been so fun. Like, because I was joking around with one of my friends, and I said, if you told me that I would be in a group chat with, a group of guys that are in like their 50s and their 60s, and then my best friend's husband is like my best friend, I'm like, no, this is not a thing. But here we are, and it's fun.
I mean, fortunately it is, like being around the same group of guys all the time can eventually start to wear on you after a while, but I'm glad that the camaraderie is there for sure. But like the grind of it all, right? Because you're doing, you're there for every home game. So like, how do you avoid burning out?
Yeah. It's funny because I almost had that like a couple weeks ago, because I got 2 Cleveland State University basketball games that I helped out with. So they were shorthanded. And so I just did the game clock for them. And I had a Saturday, and it was a women's game at 11, a men's game at 3, and then the Cavs that night. And Cavs lost. Cleveland State men, they won, but it was kind of like a sloppy game. And that it was while they had their win streak going on. And the women won. They won handily. I believe they actually played like a D2 school, because the school they were supposed to play, couldn't make it in or something. But it wasn't the best basketball of the day. And I got home and I'm like, I can't even watch a late game. I can't do anything. Like I couldn't deal with it, because it just wasn't a great day for basketball. And I was thinking about it, and I think that's just my whole thing is there's times where I come home from the game and I'm like, oh, I got to see what the late game is. Like when did the Knicks play? Are the Knicks on the West Coast, or what are we doing? And then there's those other games where I get home and I'm like, okay, silence. I just need to put on like The Office and go to sleep. And that's basically it, because basketball is really, it's like my favorite thing. It's my hobby. I love it so much. I'm so fortunate, for the experiences that I have. But sometimes, when these games aren't good, I'm like, oh no, I just need a little break.
No, definitely. I coach high school girls basketball, and when it's great, it's great, and when it's bad, oh my God, is it bad?
I'm
couldn't
sure.
Can't hit water if they fell out of a boat sometimes. Like, oh my God. The only thing they can hit is each other. No. Oh,
well, there was one the other day. I was working a women's basketball game, and I can't remember who they were playing, but the point guard for the other school, I think her listed height was like 5'2". She was so tiny, and she could shoot. She ended up making, I think, like 8 threes. And I was getting so infuriated, like, at the scores table, because I'm like, how is nobody blocking any of her shots? She starts her shot from her waist, and nobody is
defense.
And
hands up!
I was just getting so mad, and I'm like, I can't watch this. Like, we're just gonna let it happen. So I definitely get it.
It's like that sometimes, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It is
5'2". Like,
yeah.
My goodness. She was
tiny.
Muggsy Bogues, wasn't he 5'2" or
right?
shorter? Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. It was wild.
Oh my God! But you also work with the Cleveland Monsters of the AHL, and the Monsters are in the middle of the pack in the North Division. But what's not in the middle of the pack are their fun promo nights. So which promos have you enjoyed so far, and what promos are upcoming that are getting you excited?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, one of my favorites is, it has a nostalgia factor for me. So they used to be the Cleveland Lumberjacks. And this is like going back, like years and years, because they played for a while. It was Richfield Coliseum, kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, probably like a good half hour, 40 minutes outside of Cleveland. And so I remember going to those games as a kid. And so they did a throwback to Lumberjacks, and they did like a Lumberjacks weekend, and they did like reimagining the jerseys and all that kind of stuff. And that's always my favorite with like AHL teams or G League or minor league baseball or anything, is they do all the cool jerseys. And so it's like a whole theme with it. So they've done that. They do the bobbleheads. I think like basically everybody does. They introduced another like pucks and paws, where the dogs get to come. And I think a lot of teams do that, but that's always a favorite because, like, how do you not love the dogs?
Yeah, you love bringing your dog to the game.
They did recently, I think it was maybe like a month ago, they did Cleveland Rocks, and they did it as sort of like an homage to, like all the rock and roll stuff. And a famous radio station that we have out in Cleveland, 100.7, it's like a very historic kind of radio station, like broke a lot of musicians, stuff like that. So they did, like a giveaway t-shirt with that logo on it that I thought was really cool. And I think upcoming, I want to say it's maybe within the next week or two, they're doing like a pierogi theme. So, nice. Very Polish out here. So I have to be obsessed with that. So they're always bringing in the really good themes, I think. And I very much appreciate it.
Love it.
We know what's going down during the intermissions, like pierogi eating contest.
Oh, exactly.
Love it.
Exactly.
Love it. I mean, the minor leagues get so creative with their promos. I know, like out here, the Brooklyn Cyclones, every year they do the Seinfeld night. So they're all doing the Elaine dancing contest and stuff like that.
Oh my God,
they get so into it compared to the upper levels. And
I love that. Like the way that it brings the fans out for that is so good. I remember the Elaine dancing competition like all over my social media last year. Like so good. It's so good.
It's unreal. But the fan engagement, like I go to Myrtle Beach and we go to the Pelicans games, and their fan engagement is top notch. So it's definitely, that's the one thing the minor leagues have a leg up on in terms of fan engagement.
I'm going to Westchester Knicks on Friday.
There you go.
Friday. Can't wait.
Man. Charge just
right
played
behind the
them
bench,
last week.
playing the Raptors. What happened? You played them last week?
Yeah, Charge played them last weekend. You guys got the best of the Charge. Went to overtime Friday night and then beat us on Saturday as well. But
no, I like a good Westchester Knicks game. Absolutely. Good
they play
times.
at the Westchester County Center, right?
Yeah.
You know it.
That place is
Parking's
nice.
$15.
I love that place.
$40
so
tickets.
Nice. It's such a
right
good
behind
place.
the bench.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's so good. I love like all the group stuff that you can do at those things. Well, the Monsters had a good one. They had an emo night that I love. And so there's a group that's they're the Great Lakes Emo
Warped
Club.
Tour.
Yeah, right? And so Great Lakes Emo Club will do like DJ parties and stuff at different bars and everything around the area. And so they partnered up with the Monsters and did an emo night. And then there was like a post game like concert or something. And like so they do cool stuff. I love all of that.
It's just less pressure. Like I'm not going to take my kids down to Madison Square Garden and deal with that that whole scene. And then again, I don't know who's going to play. At least I know when I go on Friday, all those guys are going to be playing hard because this is their job and they want to play in the NBA and they want to play basketball. Yep. They're going to be giving it their all. Yeah. And they're going to play the whole game.
Yes.
Ain't nobody coming out, you know, and it's just it's a less intense atmosphere. And it's just like definitely what I'm looking for when you go with your kid.
Yeah. And you're right on top of the action too. You know, like when you go like Westchester County Center, there's not a bad seat in the house. So like you're good.
Nope.
And you know
the upper level seats are actually very good because they're almost like level with the basket.
Nice.
Like if you're in the first row
of
the upper deck, that's like level with the basket.
Yes.
But no, I mean I'm taking one of my little kids, so I was worried about him falling over the edge. So we're gonna sit behind the bench. He should be safe.
Also
He might run on the court at one point, but he should be all right. Yeah, it's all right.
He'll be okay.
If Dusty Baker's son can do it, my kid can do it.
Oh man! So we'll get you out of here on this one, Kristyn. You had a very impressive career. You had your MBA from Seton Hall, your JD from Pace. You spent time with the Jets. Working for this guy over here, the Giants, the Cavs. You're the official scorer for the Cavs. Like, there's a lot going on. This resume is just, I'm going and going and going. And once upon a time, you were Padua Bruin, which is the mascot of Padua Franciscan High School in Ohio. Like, it's like, I'll keep going. So, what's been the most enriching experience for you so far? What's been the most fun? Like, what do you think?
Oh, man.
Reflect a little bit. Reflect.
Reflect. You know, it's funny because I feel like every single thing, I mean, like everything built off of the thing before it, right? Because even if I think about the Jets as like my first real internship, I got an internship at the Mets because of the Jets, you know, and then I moved on to the next thing because of the previous thing. But overall, like at the end of the day, for me, it's all of the involvement in basketball because it's my favorite thing in the world. Like growing up, it was like me and my dad watching games like all the time, like always talking about basketball, going to the tournament, you know, like when it was still cheap enough to afford to be able to go to the tournament, you know, things like that. And I remember like sitting in the stands, like trying to call out like, oh, this is what the inbounds play is going to be. Like, I think this was going to happen. And I'm like a little kid, you know, just having fun with it. And now, I mean, if you would have told me that, hey, I'm going to be at the scorer's table, you know, keeping the clock when they're doing the slam dunk competition when it's in Cleveland, that's crazy. You know, never would have guessed that can happen. And it's just wild how, you know, continuing to keep connections with people and talking to people can turn into that, because that's really how it happened. It was, you know, through my buddy at the Browns that introduced me to the comms guy at the Charge, you know, and kind of doing it that way. But everything with basketball has been so fun. Like, I've been able to help with the Harlem Globetrotters, you know, an All-Star weekend and stuff like that. And so, you know, I look back on it and it's like, these are some fun experiences and there's always good stories, you know, like coming out of it. And, you know, I love telling stories and making like funny stories out of anything that happens. And so anything related to, I think, basketball that's been it for me, because it's just, I love it so much. So it's been good.
And, you know, the running theme of a lot of our interviews this past few weeks has been mentorship. So who's been your mentor throughout this, and like, what did they teach you? Like, what did you learn from your mentor?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I think in general, you know, one of my main mentors has been Peter John Baptiste. He works with the Browns, and I've known him for so long. When I was doing game days with the Giants, he was, you know, the initial like head of comms when I was over there. And just, you know, being able to have, you know, some conversations with him about talking to different people and how to make connections and things like that. And that's been really instrumental. And really, you know, he's the reason that when I relocated back to Cleveland, I hit him up immediately because he was with the Browns to be like, hey, you know, I don't even know if you'd remember me, because I'm that type of person, you know, where it's like, it's been a while, but let's chat. And I think, you know, all of the things that I've learned is just the worst that can ever happen is somebody says no to you, right? Like, it's always worth trying, you know, why not me? And that's how I look at everything that I've been able to do. Like when I say that, you know, the cliche line that if you told me when I was a kid that I'd be able to do the things I'm doing, I wouldn't have believed it. And now it's kind of like, well, why not me? Why, you know, if you like it, try it and see what happens, you know? And I love talking to other people about it. It's fun, at the Browns. A lot of the game day staff, I mean, they're kids that are in college. And so it's fun to see, these kids growing and figuring out what they want to do, and so just be nice to people and talk to people, get to know people. That's the number one thing I think to take away from any of those good contacts that I've had, is that it's always worth getting to know people and understanding, hey, what can I do for you? Like, let's talk, let's chat, let's figure it out. So all that human connection, I think, is the biggest piece.
Oh, completely. It makes all the difference in the world. Like being able
For
to,
sure.
And it goes beyond networking, because,
Of
just
course,
being a good person and just being an approachable person is, just beyond networking.
Absolutely.
So, Kristyn Okress, D knew you before this. I'm just getting to know you now, and I'm glad that you came on, and I'm glad you were able to share with us. And, if you want to be the newest member of the In Crowd and you want to join the In Route with us, hit us up, faderoutemail@gmail.com, slide in our DMs on IG at Fade Route Podcast, drop us a line on X at FadeRouteDNZ, and you could be the newest member of the In Crowd. Kristyn Okress, thank you for coming on to join us. And is there anything that you want to give a shout out to, or you want to plug? The floor is yours.
I will take the opportunity for anybody that's interested. I am on the board of the Ohio Senior Olympics, and I think it's very important to promote fitness and wellness for our senior communities. And sports across the country are catered, more for the senior crowd as well. And so if you're in any state, I guarantee you that there's some Olympic Games that are catered towards seniors. Check it out, support them when you can, because everybody needs that support, and it's a really cool thing to see. So, that's the main thing that I'll say. And I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was super fun.
Likewise, and we'll definitely have you on again real soon. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Your favorite podcast has its own merch line now. Go to the Fade Store with DNZ.com today and check out our releases in apparel, accessories, drinkware, and more. Ever wanted an Alleged Superstar t-shirt? We got those. You want some yoga pants? We got those too. And we're not done yet. We have a lot of exciting collaborations and new products on the way. But check out what we have now at the Fade Store with DNZ.com. That's the Fade Store with DNZ.com. Who's the best of the worst this week in sports? The Fade Store presents the Alleged Superstar of the Week Award.
All right, boys and girls, you know what time it is. It's time for the Alleged Superstar of the Week. You know how it goes. We put up a poll on our X account at FadeRouteDNZ and our Instagram poll at Fade Route Podcast, and you vote. And you vote, and you vote, and you vote. And the winner of said vote gets a shout out on this here show and takes home the coveted ass trophy. And do you know who took home the coveted ass trophy last week, D?
I don't.
That would be one Mr. Justin Tucker. Ooh, that's bad. That's bad. That is bad. And I don't think any other new allegations have come out against Mr. Tucker, but yeah, it's pretty bad. But that was last week. This is this week. Who are your nominees for Alleged Superstar of the Week, D?
All right, first up, I've got Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Allegedly the best player in the NFL, knocking on the GOAT's door, played like trash in the Super Bowl, 2 interceptions, terrible mechanics, missing guys, running around after the snap, not getting your feet set. Patrick Mahomes, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Number 2, I've got Travis Kelce. 4 receptions for 40 yards in the Super Bowl. You're lucky Taylor doesn't leave your ass after that garbage.
Ooh.
Travis Kelce, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And last but not least, Andy Reid. Yes, the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. 7 rushes the entire game. Not the formula for winning a Super Bowl. Your offensive linemen are constantly on skates and backing up and are not able to be aggressive and meet the defensive line in the trenches. Andy Reid, you are my alleged superstar of the week. What do you got, Zeke?
I sense a theme here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they all play for the team.
Can't put my finger on what it is. Interesting. Very interesting. What more can you say about the Super Bowl? Like that was it. I'm going to start with Liverpool FC. Losing 1-0 to Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup. Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, like soccer teams lose all the time in tournaments. Here's the problem with that. Liverpool isn't something we like to call first place in the Champions League, in the Premier League, rather. They're first in the Premier League. Plymouth Argyle is 24th in the Championship League, which is one level below Liverpool. And do you know how many teams are in that league?
I don't.
24! So you lost to the worst of the worst. So, top of the top losing to the bottom of the second tier. That's pretty fucking embarrassing. That's pretty embarrassing. Liverpool FC, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Number 2, Michael K. Taking unnecessary pot shots at Pete Alonso for signing a deal that he was comfortable with, but apparently you're uncomfortable because allegedly the Mets are paying too much for him. Ain't your money, bruh. So, are we going to complain that ESPN and the Yes Network pay you? Is that what we're going to do? Because if that's the case, man, you've been overpaid for years. It hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. And we know how thin-skinned you are. Michael K., you are my alleged superstar of the week. Keep Pete's name out your mouth. And number 3, Manchester City, they're back. Not as bad this because they lost to they lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League, but their nightmare season continues because guess what? Yeah. Champions League ain't happening, bro. Premier League ain't happening. None of it is happening. 5 Pete? No. Another dynasty is going down. And we are watching it happen. Manchester City, you are my alleged superstar of the week. I think we've said our piece. Go to our X account at FadeRouteDNZ. Go to our Instagram poll at FadeRoute Podcast and vote. And vote, and vote, and vote. And for our nominees.
You're better than that. Just do better. Just do better.
This has been the Fade Route with DNZ. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Catch our podcast on Wednesday nights on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. So until next time, stay fade, everyone.
Time for us to run the go route. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast. If you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review, rate us 5 stars, turn on subscription notifications, and share on social media. Tell your friends and spread the word.